A lot of things come to mind when thinking about the Mormon religion, but the one thing that probably wouldn't is bombings. Today we're going to look at when the Mormon Church faced its biggest crisis, not only in faith, but in death. You're listening to the Raspy Podcast. So, 1985, right? A pretty significant time for the Mormon Church because it wasn't that old, but it wasn't that new either. It had established itself as a predominant religion in the Utah region. And we see,
When did Mormon come into practice?
1800s, I think.
1800s, by Joseph something, wasn't it?
Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that actually worked is how the story goes. He was visited by an angel one night, and he found these 2 golden tablets, which were basically the word of God through the angel.
And the word wasn't in the gold, it was what's
written on the gold. Exactly, yeah. That's the common phrase with them.
Yeah.
And basically, it was another gospel. It's called the Gospel of Mormon.
Yeah. And
I don't know the specifics of it, but basically, it was so maybe revolutionary to those people that found it that they started a new church. Separate from the Protestant church, separate from the Catholic church, called the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints.
LDS.
LDS for short, yeah. And it was a fairly tight-knit group. You really didn't hear too much about it.
No.
But then
kind of passive.
Yeah, kind of passive. Yeah. But one thing we do know is that they loved history. They loved historical documents. They loved finding the historical basis for their faith. And
because obviously newish religion.
Yeah, like less than 200 years old at this point.
I mean, they wanted more research.
Exactly.
Than what they had.
Exactly.
Mark Hoffman comes along.
Yeah, and then Mark Hoffman, he's he kind of is the preeminent document finder for the Mormon religion. He's a Mormon himself.
Could have been the Messiah for them.
Exactly. And he finds what is almost the Holy Grail of Mormon documents.
Yeah.
A entry when Joseph Smith found the golden tablets, and basically the story how he found the tablets. Now, this letter was both good and bad for the Mormon Church. It was good in the sense that it's an historical document showing that Joseph Smith actually found, some golden tablets that were written on them, right? So the validity of the story doesn't change. It's how he found the golden tablets, which really made the Mormon Church feel uncomfortable.
The salamander letter.
The infamous salamander letter. It was said in this letter that Joseph Smith wasn't led by an angel of God. No.
But a lizard-like creature.
A white salamander. Almost a mystical folklorist creature.
Yeah.
Now, if that was the case, that kind of takes it away from God showing you this, but adds an element of mysticism, an element of witchcraft, which the Mormon religion would have been totally against.
Yeah.
So this letter caused controversy, and church leaders in the Mormon Church were very skeptical of its validity, but they had to accept it, insofar as they thought it was genuine, right? But this really saw the catapulting of Mark Hoffman into the limelight of a preeminent document collector for the Mormon religion and for religion as a general whole, and as document collecting as a whole. And we see him start to have groups of friends that not only are of the Mormon religion, but also of the document collecting community. 2 of these friends, which would be very important, is Shannon Flynn and Mr. Christensen, Stephen Christensen. Now, Stephen Christensen is a Mormon, so is Shannon Flynn. And they all kind of have their own backstory, which kind of leads up to this infamous bombing we see in 1985. So, let's kind of get into it. Shannon Flynn is your normal guy, right? He's a document collector for the Mormons, and he really doesn't seem like anything too special, but he's not a bad guy either.
He's not a bad guy. He just wants to kind of live life on the danger zone.
Exactly. He's a Mormon, but he seems to have what we would call, worldly temptations. He likes to drink. He likes to shoot guns. He likes to do all that type of stuff.
Drive cars really fast. Yeah. All that good stuff.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that, in the law. There's something wrong with it in the religion, which is fair, right? But what we see is a relationship kind of become between Flynn and Hoffman. And Hoffman is, finding all these documents. Shannon Flynn and Christensen are saying, I wish we could find this Mormon document. I wish we could find this almost holy grail of Mormon faith.
A few days later.
And a few days later, Hoffman comes up with it.
Yeah.
Almost as if he knows where these things are coming from. He gets a letter from Joseph Smith's granddaughter describing everything that they want to know. And it just seems like Mark Hoffman is living the good life. A wife, kids.
Getting up with the higher-ups.
Exactly. He's ascending in the ranks of the Mormon church.
He's a well-figurized character.
Yeah, very well-figurized character. So that begs the question, is he getting these documents legitimately? Or is there something going on here? Because nobody suspected that when they asked for something, it just miraculously appeared. No one suspected that this was...
Seemed normal to me when I seen the documentary.
Exactly. And the crazy thing was he would use his wife as a prop. Mm-hmm. He would plant things in books.
His wife is a Mormon, wasn't she?
Yeah. And he would plant things in books for his wife to find, act like he never knew about it, and then it would seem, well, it must be true because the wife found it in a book.
Yep.
Or it must be true because he didn't even know it was there. And we see he builds his career off this. He builds his career off basically being a master document collector.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one day Hoffman is talking to Christensen and Flynn, and also Sheets, who is another person who was in the document collecting business, about finding something called the McClellan Collection. Now, this was supposed to be the diary entries of Mr. McClellan, who was a big Mormon leader back in the 1800s.
116 pages, was it?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And it was supposed to be worth, I think, over $300,000 to the Mormon church.
Damn.
And he also had another deal with a New York buyer, who they were going to split, called the Oath of a Freeman.
Yeah.
Which was supposed to be one of the first letters, if not the first letter, written by the American, what would be the American Republic, when they were trying to break away from Great Britain. So he had big deals laying on this. He had
huge deals.
The Oath of a Freeman. He had the McClellan Collection. He had various other documents that now, if they were proven, would be worth upwards of $1 million.
And
right?
he kind of had LDS where he kind of wanted them.
Yeah, the church really couldn't dispute the claims because at the same time when they were questioning the validity because it would hurt their faith, they also couldn't go against it because these were proven to be legitimate letters. So where does that put us? We have a church who seems angry about these findings. We have a Mormon who seems to have no vendetta against the church. And then we have this great big monetary deal, which if going in, would make Hoffman a very rich man.
Absolutely, yeah.
All these things are boiling up, these mixing in the cauldron. And then in 1985, we have a bombing. 2 bombings, in fact.
2 bombings, same day. Hours apart.
Steve Christensen is killed by a pipe bomb.
In his office.
Yeah. And
Kathy
Sheets, the wife of Mr. Sheets, another business partner of Hoffman's, was also killed in the attack.
Let's just talk about the bombs, actually, really quick.
Yeah, the bombs were pretty vindictive and evil, if we're being honest.
So, this man made homemade pipe bombs and taped, I believe, nails on the pipe bombs.
And they seemed completely random because we didn't know who did it, right? We didn't know if this was a coordinated attack. It seemed random.
Yeah, did. Like, just think about having a pipe bomb, yeah? But then having nails on the pipe bomb for extra shrapnel, just to make sure
he died. Yeah. I mean,
only for his clarity.
Exactly. Like the bomber had to think that it's not enough to only scare them. It's not enough to only make sure these go off. These need to kill. These need to be lethal, which shows a very
take a life.
Yeah, premeditated kind of.
Definitely premeditated. Yeah.
Like you can't say this was not your intention when there was nails ripped around it, but. The question is, who bombed this? Who did this?
It's interesting too, because you can shoot somebody, but the way they say stabbing is more personal. This is another level, I believe. Yeah,
this is another level because you're putting something not in self-defense. You're putting something not up close and personal where people can't even deny it's you. You're doing such a cowardly action. You're leaving a package at someone's door.
Yeah.
A baby could pick that up. A child could pick that up. A stranger could pick that up.
Interesting you say, because the second package, he didn't care who picked it up.
Exactly.
It wasn't meant for anybody. It didn't have a name on it.
Exactly.
The first one did Steve Christensen.
Exactly. And the second one really was just probably a distraction.
Yeah.
But again, that begs the question. Why would someone do this? And what was the reason? And the police didn't know either, right? At first they thought it was Shannon Flynn because maybe because he loves to shoot guns, he had the explosive materials.
They found the
Anarchist Cookbook.
Yeah, all these books in
which is a book how to make bombs, and it seemed like Shannon Flynn was suspect number one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, it begs the question, he's a Mormon. Why would he want to do this to other Mormons? It seems counterintuitive, but the police said that he did it for personal gain, and the case wasn't very strong. And
No, it was not.
when he even took a lie detector test,
plus 12.
he got a plus 12, which is insanely high, insanely honest.
Mm-hmm.
So he was ruled out.
That's like, you only see a few of them in your
Yeah,
career.
you only see a few of them. Like,
Yeah.
even the most honest person can sometimes get nervous or,
Exactly,
jig the
yeah,
scale.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So now they were left without anyone to look at. Shannon Flynn was gone. So that only left one person. And that was Mark Hoffman. Now, Mark Hoffman was such a normal guy.
Yeah.
Respected in the community. A respected document finder. Right?
Good child.
Good child. Raised in a good Mormon household.
Yeah.
Never really got in trouble.
No.
So why now is he suspect number one for pipe bombings? Because crazily enough, he was a victim.
Of a pipe bomb.
He, on the day after the pipe bombs went off in Steve Christensen and Kathy Sheets' home,
One went off in his car.
a bomb went off in his car, and he had to be rushed to hospital.
And a Mormon actually ran over to him and said, "You will be saved," or something like that. Along the lines of.
Yeah, he used the power of Jesus Christ to say, you will be saved. He gave him a blessing, which apparently worked because he didn't die.
He didn't die, no.
So the crazy thing is, if your prime suspect is Mark Hoffman, explain that to me. Because that doesn't make sense. And that's what the public thought. That's what his friends thought. Mm-hmm. So we are in a really strange place.
Neighbours thought that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They were like, how could this guy do it? Mark is such an honest man. Hardworking.
Mormon. Good Mormon.
Exactly, yeah.
So why would he kill the Mormons?
Yeah.
And this is where we start to go down the rabbit hole. This is when we have to look at not everything is what it seems. Mm-hmm. Not every person is what they see on the outside, right? You really have to look on the inside.
We'll go to his early life. Well, there's not much in it, but...
Yeah.
So, born in a Mormon home.
Good Mormon home. Parents were fine. And he seemed like a good kid. Mm-hmm. I believe he went over to England to study and also looked at different books.
He did, yeah. Did he spend some time with the army? No?
I don't know. I don't think so. But what we can say is he was a very smart kid. And he loved historical documents.
Yeah, he was actually a coin collector.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where the nut kind of cracks, The nutshell kind of is exposed.
Exactly.
He starts coin collecting and he cleans up this one coin, sends it into... What coin company was it?
I think he sent it into the U.S. government.
Yeah, something
the
like
Federal
that.
Mint. Yeah.
And came back as...
Genuine,
yeah.
Not
a replica, no.
He counterfeits a coin, and the U.S. Mint says it's genuine. Mm-hmm. So basically, he's made something from basically scratch into something worth thousands.
And
he's fooling the U.S. government at this time as well.
What is said in the documentary again? If it looks real, it is real. Is that what they said? Something like that.
Basically, they made a very good point saying, if people believe something's real, and they want to believe it's real, then it's real.
It's real, yeah.
It's all about belief. Mm-hmm. I could give you a piece of paper and said George Washington signed this paper. If you believe it, then it is.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where we kind of see an opening into Mark Hoffman's kind of psyche. He's not the most upstanding person we would have seen. He's a forger. He loves to forge and trick people because it gives him a sense of superiority.
His methods were beyond, comprehension, really.
I mean, we see the documents he pulled off. He had all these techniques. He would make fake ozone layers to age the documents.
Crazy.
He would pull the ink through the paper with a hairdryer to make it seem like it aged. Mm-hmm. He was a genius.
Yeah.
He was a genius who used its talents for the wrong reasons. So now let's go back to our early statements about how he was finding all these documents seemingly miraculously. Well, it wasn't miraculously. It was forged. Mm-hmm. He forged the Salamander letter. He forged the Oath of a Freeman. And he forged the McClellan collection.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing was...
Yeah, he did this in a room in his house.
He did this in a room in his house, right?
Locked room.
A locked room, red light room, which his wife was never able to go in, which I don't know if I believe that completely. What do you think?
You're not going to lock the door the whole time. And she's curious.
Yeah, I'd say so. So,
if you're spending hours, because that shit takes time. If you're in there for hours, you're getting suspicious. I'm going in. I'm sorry, I am.
Exactly.
What about you?
I'd definitely go in because it's just too suspicious.
Yeah.
But what we see is we had no motive in the beginning. Mark Hoffman had no reason to ever kill anyone before we found out that actually every document he's made is a forgery. So now he has a motive.
Yeah.
And what was found out is that he used the pipe bombs to kind of kill the people that would have found him out. He used the pipe bombs to kill Steve Christensen because Steve Christensen would have realized that the McClellan collection didn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's when you kind of see the evil nature of him, because he's not only deceiving people, he's not only lying to everyone about the McClellan collection or the Oath of a Freeman or the Salamander Letter. He's not only undermining his own faith, that he personally says that he lost his faith in Mormonism when he was 12 and became an atheist. He's not only doing that to millions of people, trying to imprint his own lack of faith onto him by faking these documents. He's also now murdering people to try to continue the con. And that's what's evil to me.
Living a kind of like a fake Mormon life.
A double life, yeah.
Yeah, this man used to drink. That's against
Mormony.
Yeah. Shoot guns. That's definitely against it.
Seems like to be, yeah. Seems like to be.
Yeah, just not really a devoted Mormon.
He never was, but he was lying the whole time.
Yeah.
When he was 12, he kind of gave it up, and it's crazy to see the lengths he went through to kind of keep the charade up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he bombed one of his work colleagues. He bombed someone's wife. And he even tried to kill himself. Like,
do you think he thought he was going to kill himself?
I think it was more a ruse to try to say, "Oh, I'm a victim too."
Yeah.
I doubt he tried to kill
you're not
himself.
You're not going to question somebody in hospital.
Yeah. Oh, and you're not going to question someone if they seem like they're a victim as well.
Exactly, yeah.
They have no motive then. So...
And he had fake letters in the car with the bomb.
And they were all destroyed, which is crazy, but some were salvaged.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about how he was caught is he signed a personal check because he didn't have enough money to pay for the forgery of the Oath of a Freeman. And he was using an alias of Mike, right?
Yeah.
And he signed the personal check, Mark Hoffman. Like, that's just rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
That is rookie mistakes.
And there was the cracks in the ink.
Yeah, there's... Now, this is where we get into it. So, yes, Mark Hoffman was one of the best forgers we've ever seen. Mark Hoffman was a genius.
He was a man before his time. He was... Okay, I'm going to say this. He was a genius.
He was, honestly.
He really was. He was on another planet,
he was on another
level.
And, he actually fooled the FBI when they examined the Oath of a Freeman and the White Salamander Letter to see it was real. Now, it wasn't until another Mormon investigator, a forensic scientist, investigated the letter, and he was absolutely disgusted with the FBI work. Because he says, look at the ink. There's cracks in the ink. That doesn't happen with Hoffman... Sorry, that only happens with Hoffman letters. Right? It doesn't happen with any other letter. So what is this cracking in the ink? And we see that the way Hoffman kind of made heat into the letters to make it look older caused a chemical reaction and caused the ink to crack.
Yeah. Danger, kind of, yeah.
And the investigator is cracked for that because he's just... He noticed something.
That's an expert fucking ink... What would you call him?
Inkologist? I don't know.
Yeah, inkologist.
But he's a forensic scientist. Like, he really knows his job. He knows his work.
And they thought this was going to go on for like days. I think it was weeks, months even.
I think it was months, yeah, because...
Damn.
Like, how could you... If the FBI is being fooled, they're not going to give you any resources because they think they're right. So you have to do this kind of on your own. Yeah. No help, no support.
Only two inkologists doing this.
Inkologist, yeah, that's a new word, guys. It's an Urban Dictionary, inkologist. No, but yeah, like, it's crazy. It's crazy to see how he fooled so many people that he supposedly cared about. He supposedly was friends with, all for personal gain. And I think it's also superiority complex. He probably got a rush out of fooling people.
Ah, you would, yeah. You would. You definitely would. Another thing, there was a suspect saying that they saw a man come off the elevator with a package wearing a green Letterman's jacket or varsity jacket, and they went to Mark Hoffman's house and found it. Which is,
I mean, there's a lot of Letterman jackets, but that's suspect right there.
And I think the argument was that there is a lot of green Letterman jackets in a certain high school.
Yeah, and they
graduates, you know what I mean?
They could have went to the high school, yeah.
Exactly. But they found the Letterman jacket. They were sus of Mark. You kind of would be sus of Mark, to be honest.
Of course, yeah.
But fooled everybody, and just kind of got away with it for too long.
Way too long. And he cheated his friends out of money. Like he would make them give them money for saying that these were all real documents.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out to be fake. Now you're out of money. And I find it very interesting to see the people he cheated, being Mormons, they kind of forgave him.
Mm-hmm.
And they forgave him by saying, he ruined my life with money. He's not going to ruin my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very mature. It's very mature. But
he busted somebody out of business.
Yeah.
The coin collector, was
yeah,
it?
He had a friend that was a coin collector. And he went bankrupt because he trusted Mark. He put money in.
Yeah.
And just think, like, this doesn't just affect
lives.
It affects people's, kids,
and
grandkids,
businesses,
and businesses, exactly. So the crazy thing to think is, why do this? Why, even in the first place, forge something that is going to cause so much harm? And the only answer I can say is he didn't care.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think he cared? Or do you think he just was so addicted to it?
I don't think he cared. I mean, if you don't follow a religion, you don't really have morals, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
Your morals kind of just go out the window.
Yeah, because there's no reason to think human life matters.
Exactly. And just really smart guy.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing, because you see sometimes the smartest people kind of go a bit kooky or a bit insane, because sometimes they're just working in overdrive. Their brain is like, maybe I can get away with this. You know what I mean?
And he passed a polygraph. Mark did.
That's the crazy thing.
He invented his own polygraph at home, which tested, I only think, his skin.
Yeah, I think he kind of learned how to trick the polygraph by practicing his skin responses or something.
So you think he's forging?
Yeah,
and you think he's off-branding coins?
Yeah.
No, this man's passing polygraphs.
Yeah, this man's passing polygraphs.
It's insane how he does it.
It's actually insane.
Literally a man before his time.
He's controlling his skin reactions and his emotions to get away with polygraphs. That's cracked.
It is.
That's actually cracked. And, the crazy thing is, everyone thought the Mormon Church did it. Everyone thought the Mormon Church was trying to stop the Oath of a Freeman and the Salamander letter from getting out, because it would have been, detrimental to their religion. So it's crazy to think how the public can sometimes jump to their own conclusions, and the truth is actually much more crazy than you could have thought.
Question for you. Now, it's kind of hard to answer because we don't know much about Mormon and the church in America and all that. But this happens to you in, the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a follower of the Mormon religion. What are you doing? You staying in? You opting out?
See, that's tough. On one hand, I can say to myself, well, he didn't really believe in Mormonism. He wasn't really a true Mormon. So that's why he did it. He wasn't really a follower of the church. On the other hand, the only reason this kind of all happened was fueled by the Mormon document chase. I've heard stories that being a Mormon and trying to get documents that were historical is a deadly game. Mm-hmm. People will kill you to find these things. Mm-hmm. So, did they create a culture that kind of made him into what he is? You could argue, yeah. You could argue that he kind of created that culture. You could argue the secrecy and the kind of obsession with the historical documents led to this. Yeah. So, I'll be honest. If I was a Mormon,
you would stay in.
I'd probably stay in, because if I joined the Mormon Church, I doubt this would make me go. It's not so connected to the Mormon Church that it makes me go. But at the same time, I'd question our actions. I'd definitely question, hey, are we really being, quote unquote, Christ-like?
Yeah.
In doing this.
I'm similar to you. I probably would stay in. Mm-hmm. Again, people did die.
Yeah.
And just say you're a local.
Yeah.
That is rough.
Yeah, that's so rough. Because that's the guy you're supposed to be brothers in arms with.
Then again, other people die in their religion.
True.
So it's a reason, I suppose, because it's your religion. Again, what you said, your first point, what was it?
He wasn't even a real Mormon.
Yeah, he wasn't a real Mormon, so it's just another guy.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was funny because to see his interviews, he kind of was questioning that himself. He was like, I don't think human life is, that important.
Yeah, it's not worth much.
He doesn't think there's an afterlife in anything. But we saw him kind of question this. He was like, but what if I'm wrong? What if the Mormons are correct and, I'm going to be punished for this in the afterlife? So,
he took the risk.
He took the risk. Yeah. Risk reward. The sad thing is he didn't even win in this life. He didn't even win in this life.
No.
Like,
he's in prison for life. He's still alive.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, he was interviewed, and he says he deserves to be let out at some point.
He won't be.
He even tried to execute some of the parole board.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy, guy. Like, you've already been convicted of these crimes. We already know your whole story. You're just making it worse.
Yeah, he's definitely lost the plot, like, right now. He did overdose.
The funny thing was, he kind of took sleeping pills.
A lot of them.
And he,
unconscious on his arm. On the arm that he writes with for 12 hours.
He went comatose and he slept on his arm, like Cal said. And now he can never use it to forge again, which is a twist of dramatic irony.
It's ironic. Very ironic.
It's very ironic that the arm that kind of caused so much problems and made bombs, made forgeries, now is basically unusable.
Live by the
sword and you die by the sword.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the facts of the matter.
Yeah.
It really
live by
is.
the pen, die by the pen.
Live by the pen, live by the forge, die by the forge.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I find it interesting that, the Mormon Church is kind of happy with this. And it's strange to think because, of course, they don't want people to die. But they're probably over the moon that they knew the salamander letter was forged. Right?
Yeah,
because then there's no destruction of their faith.
So is their thing still that an angel met Joseph?
Yeah.
That's their thing?
I'm pretty sure that's what their thing is.
And it's saying that that's the belief.
Because
fair.
The white salamander letter basically kind of made it a sense of mysticism or witchcraft that now it's not an angel, it's a white salamander, which is which is kind of vindictive because if you're a Mormon or you're raised Mormon and you're really trying to undergird the faith like that, like that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, it's a curveball, isn't it?
It really is. And like it's not funny, but it's interesting to see like he was deciding to make it something else. He was like, is it going to be a salamander?
Yeah, it was his religion, really.
Yeah. And he just said he wanted to do a white salamander to, quote, spice things up.
Yeah,
like, that's heartless.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, that's absolutely heartless. Like, you just don't care about people's religion then. You really don't. And,
And what... Okay, obviously... I think I know the answer to my own question, but like, why Mormon? Was it because he was born into a Mormon religion?
I think it was because he's born into a Mormon religion.
Or was it because it was a small religion?
I think it's more because he was born into the Mormon religion, but I think that's a more interesting question to say because if he wasn't Mormon, I don't think this would have ever happened. Because
what other things can be forged?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what other kind of...
It seems like the roots for... the LDS is scriptures.
Yeah, exactly.
Like most religions are really, but I don't know. This one is just kind of.
I don't think you'll ever find a historical document that's so vital to the faith of a church like you will like a Mormon or something like that. Because with most religions, right, it's not based on such a recent historical fact, right? That's a good and a bad thing because then you can't actually find out, the actual, for a lot of religions who started, but at the same time, that means if someone comes along and says what you're saying is wrong, especially with the Mormons, it's easily attacked, right?
Yeah.
So, but I find like, say if he was some other religion, well, there's no market for that, right? No one would care if he came up with a new gospel or new letter that said, that they were wrong.
I feel like if it went on longer, there would have been a new gospel made by...
Oh yeah, like you'd never put it past him.
Like, just say he was out of prison right now.
Yeah.
I think Mormon would be a bigger thing. It would have spread.
Sadly, or maybe not even sadly, but strangely enough, if he would have been, actually doing the things that would have helped this church, he could have made a fake Mormon book. He could have made crazy things that were prophecy. Like, you never know.
Any publicity?
Yeah.
Like publicity for them.
And the sad thing is, the Mormon church was looking good with him. He was a successful guy, discovering documents.
Didn't look like a what blue collar, white collar,
white collar,
white collar.
He's a middle class guy, right? Like he's making $1 million off a document. Like that's really impressive. But
he finds all these,
Yeah, finds them, right? Yeah,
crazy.
That's crazy. I can't believe he's forging all these. Like it's crazy to think that.
There's method behind the madness.
Yeah, there is. There's a method behind the madness because it worked. He had the house. He had the wife. He had the good car. He had the guns.
Kids,
exactly.
Yep.
Like it worked.
Yeah.
And people believed him because people want to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we caught other people. I think because they want to believe, they want something to have like a strong foundation.
Exactly.
And then believe off that.
Like, I mean, if someone came in, and convinced you that you had, one of the holy grails of something, and said, "Hey, this is worth $1 million," of course you're gonna believe it, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny how human nature comes into things so much times, because the Mormon Church would preach against greed, and yet all we see here is greed. Yeah. All we see here is, wanting to get the next big document. All we see here is wanting to be the biggest name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is not an attack on Mormons, just to see how evil can breed in even the most tight-knit, supposedly faith-based communities. Mm-hmm. It's strange. Let me ask you a question.
Okay, go for it.
Right?
Yeah.
If you were one of the victims of Mark Hoffman, right? Like, say, the Sheets family or
So I was like a Christensen.
Yeah, like a Christensen or a Sheets, right? Would you be able to forgive Hoffman?
Nah.
No?
No, definitely not. Like, Steve Christensen looked like a hard-working man.
He did.
And there's not so much about Kathy Sheets. She wasn't really in the picture. She's just the second person. Anybody could have picked up the package.
Exactly.
She died, unfortunately. God bless.
God bless you.
Steve Christensen, he had more to do with the story. He was a close friend of Mark Hoffman. Mm-hmm. And there was trust there, Yeah. You're just say he's my dad. My dad trusted this man.
Exactly.
And you made deals with him. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And he's dead now. And that's your fault. And I'm not going to forgive you.
Yeah, I mean...
What about you?
It's tough for me because...
Like, even then, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
That's where the death penalty can come in too.
Yeah.
He killed my dad.
Yeah, exactly.
I want him to get it,
Revenge. I find it interesting because as much as, we try to hold to our moral standards of forgiveness, it was very telling. One of the... Shannon Flynn, one of the people being interviewed, said... they didn't know they gave a blessing to the devil, talking about when the Mormon man prayed a blessing of healing on Mark Hoffman. And it just goes to show you that
nobody knows.
Nobody knows, but like nobody even considers this man human anymore because of the evil acts he's done. Because you have to remember, he's not only attacking life, he's attacking faith. And that just seems so almost antichrist of him. It almost seems like he's trying to do this. And if I could ask you one more question.
Go for it, yeah.
Because this is what I found very interesting throughout the documentary, right? Do you think he wanted to be caught?
Mark wanted to be caught? For what reason? To be, like, prisoned or, like, good publicity?
I think he wanted...
Like, would he have gone to prison if he didn't kill anybody?
Yeah, because of forgery.
And how long do you think he would have got? 10?
3 to 5 years fraud.
Damn.
For each count, maybe. You never know. But my thing is this. The reason I ask you, do you think he ever wanted to get caught, is because I think he couldn't keep up with it anymore. I think that he
had a lot of things going for himself. Too much on the platter.
Exactly. I think he probably wanted an out. And he probably saw the only way out, crazily enough, was to kill the people that were going to, find out the truth.
So you thought he was going to get caught because of the killings?
I think he was going to get caught because of the fraud, because of Stephen Christensen.
Bro, I think he could have just owned up.
But
is that cowardly?
I think that's... I don't even think it's cowardly. I don't think he just doesn't want to admit defeat. Like, he wants to go out saying, I've tricked everyone. Because technically, if we're being technical about it, Steve Christensen never found out it was fakes. He died before he could.
True.
So technically, he fooled everyone until he confessed. He was the one that fooled everyone and told people it was fakes. People would have never known. Like, you know what the crazy thing is? If we would have never had his confession, even with their forensic scientists saying they were fake, the FBI said it was real. So who are you going to believe? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Even without the confession...
Yeah, damn.
Yeah, right?
Imagine there was no such thing of the people studying the scripts.
Exactly.
Like, we would have had to believe they were real.
And how many Hoffman fakes are out there that we don't know about?
They said actually he forged some Emily Dickinson poems.
Yeah, and sold them off. Like, you never know. Someone's prized collection could all be Hoffman fakes. And you'd never know.
Think about that.
Right?
Think about that.
Like, and you're just playing off deception.
That could go on.
That could go on.
Yeah.
Like,
it could be in some... Okay, this is a stretch. But
it's a stretch.
Some museums.
It's not a stretch because the FBI said it's real. Mm-hmm. Imagine you walked into a museum with a letter of authenticity from the FBI saying this is factual, this is accurate, this is legitimate.
Oh, they're gonna believe you.
Why wouldn't they? It's the FBI.
Back to the point. If it looks real,
and people want it to be real,
it's real.
It's real, right?
It's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic to talk about.
It is. It really is.
It's mind blowing as well.
Yeah.
How like something fake can just be made real.
It really is, and it's mind blowing to see how someone could have used the skills for such a better purpose. You know, not even talking about fraudulent documents.
What jobs could what's his name? Mark Hoffman. Mm-hmm. What jobs could he have got?
Well, like there's
forging.
But like people don't realize like you can make stuff for movie sets, you can make stuff for TV sets, you can make reproductions in museums, like you could do all that stuff. Like just because something's a quote unquote copy doesn't mean it's not valuable, right? Like what about this? Everyone probably has a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation on their wall.
Okay.
Right? He could have probably made those. Like, okay, he wouldn't have made as much money, but again, it wouldn't have been crime, right?
I'd just like to say that, like, it's terrible that he did kill people.
Horrible.
But in this case, I think it's a waste of a life.
Whose life?
Mark's.
Yeah, he could... This is the sad thing. It's sometimes... It's bad when someone gets killed, but it's even worse when someone ruins their own life.
Especially when they have a talent such as Mark's.
And especially when there was no need for him to end up like this. I mean...
No.
It seemed like he came from a good home. It seemed like he was on the road to be such a good person. Yeah. Like, yes, it's horrible that Steve Christensen died. Yes, it's horrible that Kathy Sheets died. Right? Like, God rest their souls. But what I find even worse is now his life is ruined. His kid's life is ruined.
His wife divorced him. Like, he has nothing.
His faith took a hit now. Like even in your lowest moments, you can trust your faith to bring you up. And now he doesn't even have that.
Yeah, he doesn't have faith.
Like, and that's what kills me. Because
bro, he might even, I don't know, like, probably just turn to some religion.
Yeah,
it's a push now, but, like, he might just, I don't know.
You never know.
People change.
People do change, and, you know, we can't know what's inside someone's heart, right? But at the same time, I've always heard the expression, the leopard doesn't change its spots, and the snake doesn't walk upright, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, people very, very, very rarely change without divine intervention, and he doesn't seem to want any of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, bombings among the Mormons. It's a crazy situation that happened in the 80s. You know, you have to look back on it. You have to learn from it. But you know, just remember that, you know, deception is almost worse than any other crime or any other sin, because you're not only fooling other people, but you're fooling yourself. Mm-hmm. And a life built on a lie, a career built on a lie, love built on a lie will always fail.
Absolutely. And I wish I had more questions to ask you, but
we can always do a follow-up. But I just wanted to let people know about this because it's such an interesting topic, and
it's just recently been added to Netflix.
So yeah, definitely
Murder Amongst Mormons.
Go watch it. Definitely check it out. Murder Amongst the Mormons.
It's interesting.
Very interesting. But yeah, we just wanted to give our 2 cents on it to see, you know, kind of how this played out, and, you know, put yourself in that position. But, you know, I want to thank my co-host,
Sylvester. Yeah, that's me.
for joining me on this episode of the Raspy Apple podcast, and we'll catch you guys next time. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Peace
out.